Static in the optics, signal in the wire, friction on the threshold, catching digital fire. High frequency phantom phasing through the lane. Zeros and the ones are screaming in the brain. Welcome to the void, breaking the barrier. Welcome to the Sportcat Show. Reality's the carrier. Shift the frequency faster than the light. Sportcat Show, haunting the night. Glitch in the dimension, blurring all the lines. Spectral heavy breathing, ghostly circuit signs. Hyperspeed haunting, neon colored ghost. Welcome to the glitch, we're the ultimate host.
Across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations, this is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sportcat Show. Let me put the right banter up here. Good Lord. Talking of technical difficulties. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am glad you're here. Thank you to WZQR and WRFN, and of course, our great friends down under the Australian Dare Talk Radio Power Station. I got a button here somewhere. I know I do. We got a great show lined up tonight. We have a return guest. And, well, I've got a new treat that we're going to have a new temporary, permanent, I don't know, co-host. Let's bring out Allison. Hello, Allison. How are you?
Doing good.
You're not stressed, are you? So.
A little bit. Of course I would be. It's my first time on here with you.
You're fine. You're fine. Tonight, though, we got a great lineup. We've got, well, it's 2 massive hours. Make sure if you're listening on WRFN to tune into the second. We've got Trisha. She's returning. She's going to tell us about writing about all kinds of fairies. And we've got some technical questions for her. And then in hour 2, we have an FDNY dispatcher. Let's bring Trisha out. Trisha, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you're with us tonight. We missed the last time we were scheduled. I think I got sick or something. And
yeah.
So I'm glad you come back. So
well, thank you for having me.
I love you. Allison May. I don't know. We'll see. So
that's Glenn for you.
Yeah. Oh, I got to send a special shout out to Chris, by the way, in Illinois. He's going to be watching this on tape delay. They had the tornadoes up there and they have been without power for several days. So send thoughts and prayers his way. He didn't have any damage. He's just in the dark. Hello, Ken. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. So, yeah, Chris has had some bad weather up in Illinois. So, he's usually in my show. He was looking forward to Trisha tonight. So Trisha, catch us up on anything new since we last spoke.
Oh, wow. So I don't know if last time I spoke with you, probably I was publishing the finale in my Realm Chronicles series, which is the Fae fantasy series. So to be a Fae is the finale, the 5th book in the finale. So that was very exciting. That came out last August, and I am working on the audiobook for that. It should be out this fall. The first 4 audiobooks for the first 4 books are already out. So can't wait for that final audiobook because I love audio. And yeah, so my fairies are they're flitting around out there in the world.
Yeah, that's right. You were wrapping up the last one. So congratulations. I'm sure you got other projects. So, before I change the subject, your audiobooks, do you keep the same person each book or do you change it up any?
I would love to keep the same audiobook narrator. Unfortunately, my narrator got sick. She did the first 3 books in the series, and we actually won an award for the second book to be a Fae Guardian through IBPA, Independent Book Publishing Association. So that was very exciting to be there with her at that award ceremony. She became ill and is not able to do it. So Tina Wollstonecraft, Jillian Yetter was my first narrator in the series, and Tina Wollstonecraft has taken over. She has a fabulous voice, very similar to Jillian's. So she did To Be a Fae Rogue, and we released that we released that earlier this year, I think, or maybe it was late last year. One of those, and so she's narrating the final book in the series too. But the fun thing is, like, Jillian has beautiful pink hair, just like my fairy queen, and Tina has beautiful red hair. So we're continuing the red-haired, pink-haired, beautiful narrators for my fairy queen.
Good. And so I interrupted you. You said you had some other things going on, but sorry, I had to ask that.
Right. So I will finish this little tidbit up in the paranormal question part, but I did write a spin-off short story to the Realm Chronicle series. So in the finale, I bring in these 12 paranormal or magical, 12 different magical creatures are needed in this storyline. So I'm bringing these 12 new characters that are all so great, like jump offs for new stories. So I wrote a short story about a Nyx character who's a hybrid fish character, and she has a queen mother who we're not so sure about, but she sends her Nyx daughter into the fairy world to help the fairies. And so I've written a short story about that, and you can get that when you sign up for my newsletter. And I have a full-length novel, hopefully, in the works for her.
Good Lord, you're busy.
My brain is just too full.
Well, mine is pretty empty. But to be fair, you started this. Well, actually, you still have your full-time job where you were like the technical person. So your brain is on top of things. So
Yeah. I hope to stay younger that way, maybe.
You're 21. We get it.
Yeah. Well, my friends started playing mahjong. I don't know if any of your friends have gotten this craze or not, but they started playing mahjong, and they're like, "We have to keep our minds active." And I'm like, "No, my mind is fine."
A friend of mine, actually KG, he's like, "You should do crossword puzzles," and so today I saw one pop up on my phone, and I was like, "I'll give it a try." It's a mini. And I'm sitting there, and every word I wrote was wrong. And the hint was, it's a lighter colored bear. And I'm sitting there going, grizzly, no, that don't fit. Polar, nope, that's not it. And finally I was like, I give up. And it said Lager. Like, what? And then I moved the phone up. I'm like, oh, that says beer.
Oh. Lighter color beer, not beer.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, that's it. No more crosswords. I'm done. See, Allison, we don't have to always stay on topic. We wander around all over the place. So. I know you had some questions you wanted to ask, so fire one away.
Okay, I'm super curious where the whole fairy concept came into play. What came up in your imagination that you decided that you wanted to use a realm of fairies in your book?
Yes, so I was going to write a story in an anthology, and in the advertisement for the anthology, there was this fairy, and she was hunched in a meadow, and she looked scared or anxious. And I'd never written about fairies, never really read about fairies except like Tinkerbell, right? Or I guess I'd read, Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, but that was like in high school. So I really didn't know that much about current fae fiction. And I was writing witches and vampires at the time, but I thought, I guess I was bored. I was kind of bored. I was like, sitting there thinking, where did this fairy come from? What is she scared of? What is she running from? What are her challenges? And I created like all these questions around this one picture. So I decided, and I was writing the finale to the Kingdom Journal series, which is the Trinity of Witches series, and they needed an army to help them fight the vampires. And then I thought, well, I could bring the fairies to help fight help the witches fight the vampires. And then, of course, she needed her own full novel, and then it turned into a 5-book series, 3 years later. But that's how she came to be.
sorry. Whenever it comes to the storyline, like her brothers, passing away, and all of the different anxiety and the tragedy and that, does some of that come from real life experiences that you've put into your novels, or is it more so fictional that you've come up with as you go?
It does a little bit. At different times in my life, my anxiety has, I guess, manifested itself in different ways. So I used to have panic attacks. I used to have a fluttery heartbeat, all these different things with anxiety. And as I've gotten older, my anxiety has gotten better. But also the anthology was an anthology specifically for fantasy characters with either mental challenges or personality challenges. So I gave her an anxiety disorder. And so then I had to think about, well, why would she have an anxiety disorder and what is she afraid of? So having her brothers lost in this battle and her being the only heir to the line gave her this pressure of, oh, wow, well, number one, something could happen to me too. Number two, now I have to be monarch. And there's never been a female monarch in our whole fairy realm. So she has all these struggles. And I thought, well, and also, like, if you are in that position of being in the limelight, like, how does that feel when you may not, measure up to other people's standards of what a princess or a queen should be, which would seem like it would even more compound your anxiety, right? So, yeah, it was fun to write that character and write her throughout the series and how she was overcoming and getting around these obstacles.
Yeah, and she had to step up to the plate whenever she really wasn't ready, but due to the outside pressure, she definitely trumped that. Okay, no, that is, I really do like the way that you think, the way that you come up with the different concepts behind it. It sounds very realistic, because something like that would cause real life anxiety, and
right.
it's a great way to get that out.
I feel like fantasy is a good way to, like, explore some of those topics that may be hard to talk about or challenging to think through for ourselves, but watching them play out in a fantasy world and seeing how, or imagining how those fantastical characters get around these things and, start to work through them can kind of help us work through things.
And then through reading the book, you can also learn different tools to handling it from reading through the storyline, so that if somebody at home has anxiety, it's kind of like hidden messages in it so that people can use it as a tool to cope at home. So that to me is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, touching on that, you originally, your first works weren't fiction. It was more of a journal, correct?
Yeah, they were a fictionalized account of my experience with anorexia. So my first series, the Being Me series, follows a girl through her struggles with anorexia and her recovery from that. So it was a fictionalized account, but very close to my experience.
Did make you feel better getting that out?
I think it did. I think it was very healing to look back, because I was looking back at it 20 years later, and you have such a different perspective when you're 20 years out and you're, have that much more, I guess, maturity, right? And a wider angle lens to see things. And I made a lot of discoveries about, maybe what led me down, that frustrating journey of, feeling like I needed to protect myself in that way. So yeah, it was very healing, and it was it felt good to write something inspiring too, because at the time I felt like my life was ending. It was going to be over. Nothing would ever be good again, right? I just messed up things royally. And, looking at it 20 years later, it was like, wow, it put me on a different path, a different trajectory, but that wasn't necessarily bad. And I came out with, like, all these tools of how to, live, how to be an adult, how to manage my, mental health and all of those things. So, yeah.
Did you get feedback from people saying you helped me a lot?
I have a lot. I love getting those emails from people that say, I went through, I mean, and even if it's not specifically an eating disorder, whether it's depression, anxiety, whatever, it was for, or it is for people, having people contact me and say, I really related to that. Thank you for sharing that story. And thank you for being vulnerable. At the time, it felt very scary to put it out there, but it seems very rewarding.
Putting your vulnerabilities out there sometimes helps others. Not everybody's willing to put their stories out there and process them the way that you did. I find that really awesome that you were able to put it out, even in book form. Part of it's, fiction, but it's based off of your true story. How are you doing now so far, 20 years later?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, I have, well, my kids are all grown. So I have 3 kids, and my husband still is with me. So I'm lucky that way. Yeah, so, I just feel very grateful for all the people too that helped me along that path. And that's one thing I really try to show in my stories, and bring in characters that are put there to help, our heroines. And it's not a one man or one person or one fairy show, right? We have all these people that it takes a village.
It takes a village, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you do a lot of research on your stuff, I know. You mentioned Tinkerbell a moment ago, but you were like, that was the first fairy you knew about. Funny side note, when I was watching Toy Story with Squirt, at the beginning of Disney movies, you know how Tinkerbell comes out and does their little, whatever you call it, and the stars come out. I was like, oh, it's Tinkerbell. And he's like, who is that? And I'm like, God, I'm old. So what is the weirdest thing in your research that you've kind of went down a rabbit hole on while you're doing your homework?
Oh, wow. So yeah, after I published my first To Be a Fae Queen, which is the first book in the Realm Chronicles Fae Fantasy series, I thought, you know what? Maybe I should research these fairies. Maybe I should see what other people are doing with fairies. And that's when I discovered, well, a lot of people don't put wings on fairies, and fairies were not supposed to be able to tell a lie. And I did none of those things. But after the fact, I started researching like all the different fairy lore, and there's so many different, from each different culture, there's different lore about fairies. So I kind of got a little bit obsessed with doing that, and I made a whole series on my newsletter. You can sign up to get like this 4 or 5 part series on the fairies and all the different kind of fairies and their magical powers and what they can do and what they can't do depending on where they were written from. So that was a lot of fun. And then I guess just last year when I was researching all the different 12 beings, magical beings that I had to get together for my fairies, I did a little series on in my newsletter, I guess too, and on my blog post about like all the different kind of magical beings that I think there were 30 or 40 that I researched. And it's just a lot of fun to learn about like all the different magical beings that people have thought existed or existed in lore and fairy tales around the world. And, these creatures that live under the water that they're going to steal you, they're going to drag you under the water and take you forever, and all these different weird things. So, yeah.
You had the rebel fairies.
I do. I was just interviewing someone before this, and she put wings on her fairies too. And I was like, yay, another winged fairy person.
You just may not have seen them yet. That's all.
I haven't seen them yet. I know. They're very elusive beings.
They run around in your head though when you're writing. So.
They do, definitely.
Did they help you towards a conclusion any, or did you kind of steer it along?
I kind of knew where I wanted my series to end when I started. I knew, the happily ever after I wanted my fairy to have, but it was the in-between part that the characters take over and kind of decide like, well, this would be fun or this would be horrible, and maybe we could do this.
What would you say the most common household for a fairy would be? Would it be one of the fairy gardens, or would it be a mushroom?
My fairies live underneath our bedrock, so physically under where the humans live. And they mostly have like either log homes or stone homes. So they have like medieval type technology. So they know that cell phones exist and know that computers exist, and they can see the humans using all this technology, but they choose not to have the technology. So they still like make fires to stay warm and pump their water from streams and things like that. So I like just like the idyllic setting and getting back to, you know, it's just a simple life. It doesn't have to be all this complicated, you know, society, I guess.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Not everybody's got to live with all the technology that's out there. Who knows what's in your backyard?
Today's kids probably don't. They're on the computer all the time. So
Sadly, the computers are raising a lot of our children these days.
yeah, computers and TV. So I am going through it again with Squirt. So I'm learning new things every day about computers and stuff. He's like, I got this Fortnite. I can do this. That. I'm like, I can barely log on the computer. What the? You're 5. So.
Don't ask me how to use a television set. I'm lost on them. Can't focus on that. So TVs are out the window for me. I'll use YouTube. It's the easiest thing to log on to for me.
Well, that's it seems to be a trend. So somebody's getting attacked.
Sorry, that's my dog.
Well, is your husband okay? Do we have a safe?
It's thundering and lightning and raining really hard, so I think that's it.
You're in Colorado, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which we're actually getting rain for the first time in like 6 weeks. So
Well, that's good. As long as it's not flooding rain, so that's good.
She can get a kayak and American flag and go down the street.
yes, that'll work.
I was going to say, you're still a Georgia girl at heart, though, aren't you? As far as sports and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. My Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and my UGA Bulldogs, which, you know, they're rivals, but I still have to root for both of them. So
I get you. Well, when I moved here from Knoxville, of course, the Volunteers, one of my friends said, well, you gotta be a dog fan. I'm like, what? That's not going to happen. I was like, wait a minute. You got Tech. Go Tech. So I became a Tech fan. So, and ironically, most of the Tennessee Georgia games fall on the weekend right around my birthday, and my friends just love to drag me through the goals over it. So,
well, the South is definitely football heaven. So
you should add some of that into your fairy lores. So
maybe so.
I mean,
good competition going there.
Yeah, you could write a sports series on it. So.
Fairy sports, fairy hockey. That would be really popular.
Oh, that would be actually really entertaining.
That actually would. It moves pretty fast though, so they'd be good at it. So
their little hummingbird wings start flapping.
How would they high stick?
I don't know that much about hockey, so I would have to do a lot more research.
That's when you come in and you hit them with your elbow and put them up against the wall. So,
well, hummingbirds are sweet, so they wouldn't want to high stick each other.
Right. And fairies are generally kind of sweet too. So, you know.
Except for the rebel ones you first wrote about. So.
Right. Yeah, we do have some bad guys in there.
Well, now, you're also, you might not want to talk about this, but you also have a pen name where you write other stuff.
Right, I do. My pen name for my romance is Maria Jane, and I just released the 5th book in that series, Perfect Secrets.
Why did you get a pen name?
I really like the idea of because my fantasies are YA fantasies. I don't want a YA person that needs a YA book to just jump into my romance. It's not erotica, but it is like there are some sexy adult scenes in them. So it's closed door, fade to black scenes, but they can get, and it's adult, it's adult situations. So I didn't want a person who was a YA person to just jump into this other book thinking it would be appropriate and or a parent of those people. So that's why I kind of separated them. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good idea. That's a good idea.
That's definitely a smart way to protect them from accidentally grabbing a book just because they see your name and then opening it and it's a completely different subject than what you were originally writing about. Yeah. That is a very smart way to protect them, definitely.
Did you have something else, Allison? Or
no, I just felt that was a really smart concept to switch the names.
It is
2 types of categories.
Yeah, no, it is a great idea. And you've got quite the following. So you're doing book tours and stuff. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like this weekend, it's National Romance Bookstore Day. So I'm going to a local, it's a bookstore, but that has romance. So I'm going to that bookstore to help them like be there for National Romance Bookstore Day.
Do you have, do you split the personality? I mean, is there?
I guess so. Like today I was wearing my Good Witch shirt. So I was going more for the fantasy paranormal that is more the subject matter. So it depends on, the venue and what people want to talk about.
Okay. Well, we're easy here. We talk about anything. So, now I didn't know until this latest release. I was like, wait a minute, she is doing 2 different pen names. So.
It can get confusing, but when I was writing my fantasy, I needed a break. I mean, it's YA fantasy, so it's not graphic or, anything, but fairies and witches and vampires, they really get in tough situations and it seems like they're constantly in peril. Somebody is about to die at any moment. So I get really mentally involved in that and I get really worried about my characters. So I thought, what's going to be like something light that I can write about in between my fantasies that, the worst thing that can happen is the guy's going to break up with you. So nobody's going to die. So yeah, that was kind of just came out of like kind of just needing that mental break from my fairies. So, yeah.
That makes sense. Is there another genre you've ever thought about?
I have a dystopian sci-fi series, which is the Lovelock series. So that was fun to write about. That has 2 books in the series. A teen boy and a teen girl are caught up in I guess, how should I say that? There's a pandemic, so it was eerily predictive of the 2020 pandemic, but they are sent to a desert community to escape the pandemic, and the group there is trying to come up with a cure. But then they discover that the 2 teens discover this group may not be completely above board, and so they have to go rogue a little bit and go out on their own. So you have 2 teenagers with no car trying to get all the way across the country, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
In that book, what would you say the most, let me see, I'm not sure the word for it, but the most creative way that they were able to get across the country, what do you feel was one of their best methods of traveling that was creative?
That was creative. Wow, they stole a vehicle in the first book. So they get from Nevada to Washington State by stealing a Humvee vehicle. And they almost get detected, so that was a little bit touch and go there. But in the second book, they have nothing. So I really had to do a lot of research. If you're running across the country, like literally running on trails, on old roads, how long would it take you to get all the way from California to Kentucky? And how many calories are you going to burn? How much food do you have to eat? Because there weren't grocery stores. They weren't able to steal things from other people. This basically no man's land. So they were having to hunt all their own food. So I don't know that I was being that creative. I was more like, okay, how do survivalists do this?
Understandable. Like, how much food do you need between stops, and how much water do you need to bring, and where can you get more water when it runs out without carrying too much luggage? For sure. Okay.
Which would be my like worst case scenario thing to happen to me because I really like my showers. So
You're not a prepper.
I'm not. Well, no, I am a prepper. I will keep a lot of food in my pantry, but I really don't want to have to use it in a camping situation.
She would not want to do evacuation prepping, like if she had to move, unless you got an RV, and then it would be possible because you still could take your food with you.
Yes, that would be true.
Yeah, you can't forget about your husband and your puppy either. So you got to take them
Well,
with you.
we were playing this card game. I was trying to play this light card game with him, and it was like on the table at a restaurant, and they have like these questions, just you're supposed to answer the questions, good for conversation. It was just me and him, so he wasn't that impressed with the game, but I asked him, I said, would you survive? The question was, would you survive in the wild? And he was like, no. I'm like, what? You have to survive for me. like, dude, come on. Like, I was worried about that answer.
Well, can he read a tape measure?
He's very handy. He's an engineer. He can fix cars. He can build things. I'm like, you could build a structure. You have a gun. You've used it maybe once at least. Yeah, you could build a structure. You're an engineer. You could probably fix a vehicle to get us somewhere if we had gas, I guess. But I feel like he could survive. And he said, well, you have to get a lot of food to get a lot of calories to do all these things. And I was like, oh. Lots of berries.
Yeah. Have you ever watched any of those survival shows?
Not for any length of time. No, I've like seen little snippets of them, but like I said, it's my worst fear, so I don't usually watch them.
Well, no, I was going to say, because I know earlier we talked about anorexia, but one of the guys on, I'm trying to think the name, they drop you off and the last one out of the woods gets like $1 million or something, whatever that one is. And he was really good at hunting, fishing, trapping, but he got paranoid about having enough food. So he slowly cut down to where he was almost eating nothing, but he had this great big old stash of stuff, and they had to take him off the show. He developed a psychosis because of it. He lost a lot of weight. And so you can go the other way too.
Right. I think, yeah, your mind does weird things when you start to like not eat enough. So it can rewire itself to believe whatever your psychosis is believing, and you can't really stop that process unless there's interventions sometimes. Yeah, it's a scary thing.
Yeah, they interviewed him later, and he was like, after about day 20, I don't remember anything, and he was in the woods for like 60 days or something.
Oh, that's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So
I think that if I was in a survival situation, my biggest fear wouldn't be so much as food, because I know, you can eat crickets. I know it sounds disgusting, but I mean, protein, crickets. I'd be afraid of running out of fresh water or drinkable water, because I still haven't learned how to infiltrate water systems yet to where they are filtered. So that to me would be my biggest fear in a survival situation. And I am not very good at starting fires. It can be 105 degrees outside, and I probably still can't light one.
You have your glasses. Maybe that would work.
That's funny.
Remember to take your glasses with you.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Hey, as far as water, Life Straw, they're like $20. They're good for like 200 gallons or something. It's an ungodly amount of water for like $20. And you can literally, the guy that made them, his commercial on the internet, he goes like this dirty alligator hole and takes big drinks out of it, and he's fine.
And it filters it through the straw.
Yeah.
All these inventions I don't even know about yet. That's going to definitely be something I look into. I like to camp.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, you're in Colorado and you don't do much camping. It's beautiful out there.
Oh, I love hiking, but I just don't like staying overnight in the woods.
You just want to get out before dark, before the critters come out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I grew up in Georgia, and I think it wasn't a good camping experience. It's all like, there's lots of snakes, there's lots of bugs, there's lots of animals, and it's very humid. I don't know. And I did camp when I was young, so yeah.
the humidity will definitely, yeah, you can take a shower, go back outside, and it's in 5 minutes. You feel like you haven't even taken one. The humidity down south is, I'm from Texas, and I would much rather be in dry heat than humid heat.
Yeah. Atlanta, welcome to the humidity. 106 on Monday, by the way.
Ooh, no.
That's what they're calling for. I just saw it on the news before I come in. And the guy's like, I think it's going to be like 80% humidity. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going to stay inside.
Hard pass. Yeah.
Very hard pass.
Well, that's why you should live in the realm of fairies, right? So you just go into the fairy realm and you'll be much cooler because you don't have as much sunshine.
Yeah. Have you ever deeply thought about how you'd really like to go to that?
I have, yes, because I mean, I would worry about being cold. Like she said, I don't know how good I am at fire building. I was a Girl Scout, so I did learn that. But having to keep the fire all the way through the night would be a challenge too.
Making sure that you keep adding stuff to it so it doesn't burn out. Yep. Nope, that's another good point.
And having to make all your own clothes. I don't know if I could kill animal either. So I would want to appropriate someone to do that.
Your husband.
Yeah, maybe.
I saw the way you did that.
I could sew. That's one skill I have.
There you go. As long as you send him out and say, I'm not opening the door until you come back with protein.
Protein, yeah.
And it better not be a berry. I'm tired of berries.
Where's the watering hole? We got to go fishing.
Oh, fishing. I could fish.
There you go. Now, out there, you got grizzlies, don't you? Because we each got, we got black bears here.
Right. Yes. Always taking the bear corn. So, or the bear spray.
Have you ever had any type of bear experience out hiking?
I've seen one from afar while I was hiking, and we just kind of stopped and watched the mother bear and the baby bear go across the trail and let them keep going for a while before we approached where they had crossed. So yeah, it was neat to see them, but I wouldn't want to be any closer. It was about 100 feet. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, understandable. They can go pretty fast.
Especially when they're taking care of cubs. Mama bear is even the black bears are very protective. So, yeah. Well, here the black bear population in Gatlinburg and Sevierville up in the East Tennessee mountains, they're just wandering down around the tourists now, and it's almost to the point where that's scary because there's going to be that one kid that's like, "Oh, mommy, you want to pet it?" and then he's going to be a bear taco. So.
Yeah, I think the first time I went to Yellowstone National Park, just that day they had where a buffalo had like charged a little kid or something, and the little kid was in the hospital. And I was like, I'm not getting out of my car.
You'll do the safari from right here. Roll it up, roll it down. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, that was it a moose? There was an old man that was in the park somewhere recently, and he was seen. It threw him up in the air 2 or 3 times, and
I think that was a buffalo too. Yeah, I think.
Was it? Okay,
yeah. So.
It was big. I remember that. So, dang, yeah, he was in Yellowstone, I think. So, yeah.
Don't they have warning signs all through the park saying not to get too close for pictures and? People still, I understand if you have like a 2 or 3-year-old try to run off from you, that would make sense because kids are hard to catch. They jump out of the car and take off running. If you haven't, worked with them on that yet. But as for other people, I mean, it's tragic whenever it happens, but there's so many different signs you would think that are up that people would think about it a second time before getting too close.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, the black bears are crafty. They now will open car doors in Gatlinburg if they think something's in there. Literally open the door and go in.
Yeah, that happens in Boulder too. Like they go into people's houses and they go into people's cars, and yeah,
it's the craziest thing. I mean, I guess talking about survival earlier, They figured out there's food in there. I can't break it down, so I can open it. So that's too big of a trash panda for
Yeah,
me.
they're watching us very closely. So.
Yeah, I don't want to be their food. In the fairy world, do you have all kinds of different animals, or are they pretty much the same as ours?
They're the same as ours, and my Fae Queen lives under Australia, so that was a lot of fun to invest or learn about like their geology, their landforms, their flora and fauna, and the animals that live there. So I definitely have all those animals that we have here in the human realm. I have the same animals that live in the fairy realm, because it's supposed to be just a mirror of our human realm. So we have all those Australian animals that were fun to write about too.
Are they smaller?
I didn't make them smaller. I made them like basically, I kind of got dinged one time from someone who read my book, and she said, the map is just like the human map. And I was like, well, it's just like it's the same bedrock. They're just living on the opposite side of our landforms. So, but anyway, that was okay. And I felt like I wasn't created enough in our world, but I wanted the fairies to be able to access our human world because they needed to come help the witches and the vampires. So yeah, it was happenstance.
Was the fairies, was it a different culture with them? I know you were talking earlier about when you researched different lores.
You mean like so my fairies I created just from like not knowing anything. And like in my books, the fairies are descendants from angels. The witches and the fairies are both descended from the angels, and the vampires are descended from the dark angels. So, and they were placed like in the fairy realm to protect the humans from the dark angels in hell, quote unquote, right? So that's why they're between hell and the human realm. And so they go to Earth, some are into the human realm sometimes to help out the humans and to protect the humans from whatever, paranormal or magical evil beings are messing up the human realm. And that has been their job for centuries upon centuries. And now they're adapting to, now humans have all this technology. There are many more humans. So, they've evolved some, and it's interesting because Queen Titania really wants them to evolve more. Like they believe that all vampires are evil just because they're vampires. Well, as we know, like you could do one bad thing, but not be a bad person, or everybody of a certain race or a certain type of being, like all vampires might not be evil, right? So that's one thing Titania tries to do with the elders, is to say, hey, this person might, or this being might be a vampire, but maybe they're not necessarily a bad vampire, and maybe we could befriend the vampires, and it would, help create peace throughout all the realms and some of those things.
Was there any Bigfoots in your books?
There weren't any Bigfoots yet. I haven't written one of those. Maybe that would go into my dystopian sci-fi. That might be a good thing. It's a good idea. I have to think about it.
Okay. Just don't name him Glenn. So.
Okay. I will make sure they're not named Glenn.
Well, speaking of Bigfoot, before we go, I want to make sure you get a chance to tell everybody where they can find you and find your stuff. And then, of course, you're prepared. We have the paranormal question we want to hear from you. So.
Right. So my website is trishacoplin.com. You can find all my books there. If you specifically want the romance, it's mariajaneromance.com. But if you go to trishacoplin.com, you can get to my romance as well. My paranormal experience. So I talked about writing my next short story about this hybrid fish shifter character. And I was thinking about the full-length novel and what her challenge might be, and thinking that she would be sent to the fairy realm to find a lost Nick city under the seas of the fairy realm. And I really hadn't talked about this with anyone, but one of my readers sent me this picture where it's a sea life picture, and it's like you're looking up out of a cave into the bigger, like, free ocean water, but you have this hand here. And I had been starting to think about, not only was there's lost city there that they thought was abandoned, but maybe there's this race of people, or ancient race of Nick Shifter people that they discover are there, and maybe kind of antagonistic to our main characters. So it was really weird that I was thinking about writing that novel, and then she sends me this picture with this hand, this creepy hand. So I thought that was maybe a little psychic.
That creep you out?
A little bit. I was like, I mean, I don't know how much happenstance happens in the world. I like to believe that, it's because somehow we're all connected in some way.
It's true.
And then if you did run into something like that, how would you know if it was a friend or a threat? Because even if something looks like a threat, it could be friendly.
That's true. You shouldn't judge people just because you don't know about them, right?
Exactly.
And if it's a shapeshifter, it'll just shift shapes. So
Yeah, but would its personalities changed if it was a shapeshifter? Would it change personalities if it shapeshift?
Ooh.
Well, you would. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Question. Yeah,
if I was a shapeshifter, I would want to keep the same personality just so I could pick on people. I would use it as the ultimate prank.
Yeah, I guess if you were like going from a human to a werewolf, yeah. But if you were going from like a vampire to a werewolf, I mean, you'd still be Fred, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, maybe you'd still have your same personality in your consciousness, but then you'd have other factors that come in too, because if you're a werewolf, you might need to eat meat and kill things to eat meat. But I guess people kill things to eat too, so can't really go by that.
Well, what if you're a vegetarian and you're a vampire?
Yeah, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah. Can we 3D print blood yet?
Synthetic blood. Yeah, we'll come up with that. That's been in very many. There is synthetic blood, so that'll work.
Okay, there you go. See, you solved the riddle. I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, what if a vampire was a vegetarian? How would that work?
Lab creating meat now, so I mean, I guess there could be another option.
Yeah. Yuck.
Yeah.
I'm not down for that. I don't know about you guys, but
I'll go hunting.
Allison will help you.
I'll stick with Kroger's. or Publix or whatever's out there. So yeah. So Allison, you've already got a fan here. Somebody is they love you already. So you got a fan. Hopefully not a stalker. So,
my uncles.
Well, hello, Uncle. So Trisha, you're already working on the one that's being published. I guess it's in editing. Is that where it's at right now, or
which one?
The most recent one you got.
Oh, the next book? It's still in the works. Yeah, it's still in the writing stages, and I'm writing another romance too. So those are going to be next year when they come out, probably. Yeah.
I was going to ask when the next was, and then how many do you put out a year? Because you've got quite an assortment.
I do, yeah. In the last couple of years, it's only been one a year. So I released one last year and one this year. In my early writing, I was publishing 3 books a year, which was craziness. So it's the writing has slowed down a little bit.
How do you focus for that long at a time?
I think it's just like I write maybe 30 minutes or an hour a day. So if I write every day, it's the best way for me to write, because that way I'm remembering what I wrote the day before and I can pick up easier. And then in between, I'm thinking of my characters and what's going to happen next, or if I wrote the right thing for the character, what I wrote the day before. So that's kind of my happy place for writing. But, life.
Have you ever had, I guess they call it writer's block, where you just like at the keyboard and you're like, it's just not coming?
I tend to like just go out and do other things. Like I'll go take a walk or, and that seems to clear my head. And I have fun thinking about, because if I'm getting bored writing, that means my readers are going to, and that's really the only time when I kind of get writer's block, when I'm getting bored and I'm like, oh, I don't really like this. And if I don't like it, then the reader's not going to like it. So I need to go away and figure out something fun to write, whether it's fun, a hard situation to put them in that they have to get out of, or fun, like what's a fun situation that somebody wants to read about that is going to put the characters where they need to be next. So,
I'd never thought about that, but I guess you're right. If you're bored or just having problems with it, the readers would too.
Right.
So so I'm working on it. Well, I'm kind of too. And one of the problems I'm running into is I'm thinking of some of these great scenes and things, but they're further down. Do you puzzle it together, or do you straight from the front to the end?
Yeah. So what I will do is sometimes I plot things out like on a big poster. I'm more like a hands-on graphic person. So I will plot things out and write little scenes on sticky notes. So then I can put them on my poster and I can move them around in different places. But you could do it in a computer document too, right? Like a Word or a Google document. Just write different scenes down so you don't forget them. And then you can rearrange them and put them in, where you want. But that seems to work for me. Like in the beginning, I know like basically where the plot's going to go, the beginning, the end, maybe I know like what the climax scene is going to be. And then I like to, do the highs and lows that work out in between those. Because if I tried doing an outline and I got bored with that, like I didn't like writing what I already knew was going to happen. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Allison.
Then what are some of your outside influences that come into your writing, whether it be people watching or even music like that can help you unclog writer's block or help you come up with new, fresh ideas for your writing?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I create playlists for my books and my different series. So I have some of those on Spotify. And I like listening to music, but especially that's sort of like in the same theme of what I'm writing. So that and I'll see images or pictures or like listen to songs. Like from the Kingdom Journal series, there's this, and I don't know who sings it, but the lyrics are "All my friends are heathens." And so that was sort of like my theme song for that book, because the main character is half witch, half vampire. And her mom really shelters her. Like she doesn't really know like what the real vampire counterculture is, because she lives this kind of vampire vegetarian diet. And that's what her mother kind of forces upon her. And so then she meets these kind of rogue real vampires that are actually drinking human blood, and she goes to this vampire bar, and and so the heathen song is playing in the back of my mind, and she takes her witch friend there, and of course all the vampires want to eat him. so yeah, things like that. I think images, songs, and I like lore too, so I like kind of twisting around, especially like the old, and maybe some people get offended, but the old like angels, demons, kind of biblical stories as well, and rewriting those things. So.
When you're going to describe them, where in the book do you describe them? As it goes along, or kind of like jam it all at the beginning?
Oh no, I try to trickle it along. I think my first like Kingdom of Embers is the first book in the Kingdom Journal series, and it's funny. If someone writes a negative review, I will remember that one negative review over all the, I can have 99 positive reviews. I get one negative review and I'm like, oh, I need to fix it. But so I think a little bit in that book, I kind of like gave too much in the beginning about the world. But now, like, definitely I've learned to like trickle them through and have you learn about the world as you go along, rather than just, oh, I'm going to tell you in the first chapter every little bit about this world. So definitely not a front heavy book anymore. Yeah.
That's where I got hung up. I was trying to put everything like in the beginning, and I was like, I can't do that. It's boring.
Right, yeah.
For me to write, much less, like you said, for somebody to read.
But I think it's, if you come up with like ways to show it instead of telling, like through like scenes in the stories or challenges that the characters have, then the reader kind of learns as they're going, and whether that's first person or third person or, so I think that's a fun way to scatter in like rules and what it looks like and things like that. So.
Do you go back to your first stuff and go, this is so much different than now, or is it?
Like I said, that first Kingdom of Embers book, I thought I was being, but like I said, I'm taking one review, and so I thought I was being pretty crafty, because she sits down with her mentor, and he's a mentor, so he's and she's like, I know XYZ, right? You don't have to tell me XYZ again. And it was only 2 or 3 pages, so I'm being too hard on myself about that. But so yeah, I think I'm always trying to improve my craft and improve different elements. And I learned things from either courses or from other authors about how to shape and format books in different ways to like integrate plot elements and time and jumping around and things like that. So I love learning new things and being able to do a story a little bit differently, but make it good, right? Like I had an idea for like going back and forth in time, but I read a book where you jump back and forth in time, and I just got tired of it. Like I was like, you've gone back and forth too many times. I can't do it anymore. So then I was talking to another author, and they were like, oh, but the secret is always make something good happen at the end of every segment of time. So the person is like looking forward to like jumping back and learning what happened before, or jumping forward, right? So they were giving me all these pointers. So.
Okay.
Would you say that some of them are more in the form of like guidebooks at the beginning, or would you say that they're more like learning hands-on, but as you read?
Oh, it's definitely learning hands-on as you read. Yeah, I like, and especially like in my last book, my Romance Perfect Secrets, even though it's a first-person narrator, the character doesn't tell you everything, right? So even if a character's talking first person to you, they may still keep a lot of secrets. So that's fun to do, I think.
All right. Trisha, I want you to come back. We like you here.
Thank you.
So,
I like being here. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And as I'm sure you do with your show, you learn something from every guest. And like I said, I'm still doing the Fred Flintstone on the keyboard, but you do learn stuff, and I love when you have stuff to share. So thank you. So, and if
Allison, what is your favorite genre, or do you read everything?
I actually lately it's been catching up on everything that happened during COVID, learning, seeing all the different perspectives on what happened throughout, 2020 to 2023. Just, trying to understand all of the different things that happened and make sense of it all, because it's almost like you wake up and it's a whole new world out there, and you kind of wonder sometimes if it really happened or if it's a figment of your imagination. It went by so fast.
Yeah, it does seem like that now. Like we were in it and it didn't seem like that, but now it kind of does, right? So, yeah, cool.
See, Trisha knows mine's comic books, so so she knows me. So, Trisha, thank you for coming on and sharing. I'll shoot you an email when we get done, and make sure you get all the correct information and stuff. But in case you're just joining us, Trisha's information will be in the show notes at the end of the show. Probably not tonight. It'll be kind of late tonight, but I'll get to it by the weekend, and I'll shoot the link to you. So thanks for coming on. You're awesome.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you, Trisha. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Talk to you soon, Trisha. Bye-bye. See, she didn't bite you. Wasn't that hard?
Oh, I didn't think she'd bite. She looked too nice for that.
Yeah, it's me you got to worry about. So everybody hang on. As always, we have two guests, and we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to get into some gritty New York stuff. So hang tight. Let me push a button here.
Broadcasting across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations, this is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to hour number 2. If you're just joining us, please remember to come over to the Sportcat Show, hit that like, subscribe button, and if you missed Trisha, go back and listen to the first hour. We had a great hour with her. So our second hour, our second guest, I swapped things up a little bit. Everybody knows my background's in public safety, and I wanted to add a guest that had some experience about some things, as well as historical, and tells a story about other first responders that most people don't think about. So let's bring out Francis. And hello, Francis. Frank. Okay.
Sure.
I wanted to make sure before I said it. So welcome, sir.
That's fine. How are you all?
Doing good. So
It's been a good day.
tell us. Oh, yeah. Frank, by the way, this is Allison's first night. So don't be too hard on her. She's
No, that's not my style.
she's fragile. We don't want to break.
Life,
Oh, I'm not that fragile.
life is hard enough.
I'm on a screen with 2 hose draggers, you know.
There we go. She's already started on this. So, Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into all this, and then we'll dive in from there.
Back in 1973, I was sworn in as a what they called a provisional fire alarm dispatcher in the FDNY. Provisional meaning I did not take a civil service test. And the next time they had a test, I had to pass it if I wanted to keep my job. And I had very little idea of what I was getting into. And there was really no training because it wasn't like they took a class out of an academy or anything. And it took me a few months to kind of understand what was swirling around me. We sat in a big room, all the alarm boxes were telegraphed in on both sides of the room. They tapped in numerical codes of their location. We had phones ringing all the time, companies calling back in service, telephone alarms from the 911 system, from dialing operator, and from dialing directly to the fire department. It really amazed me that there were 7 or 8 people sitting around me all night and all day, completing entire sentences, hardly using a word. It was almost all numbers. And it was like a foreign language. And I had to learn 10 codes, unit codes. I had a pretty good knowledge of the streets of Brooklyn because I grew up in Brooklyn. I played basketball through Brooklyn. I became a basketball official and officiated throughout Brooklyn. So the streets didn't put me off that much, but what companies were in what neighborhoods were kind of new to me. Within about a year or two, we started to get into computer-assisted dispatch. When I first got there, we were sending out alarms by ringing bells in the firehouse. Now, not all alarms, but multiple alarms. We rang the bell code for that location for that alarm. We went from that to computer-assisted dispatch in the time that I was there, which is kind of a really good illustration of the compression of technological change. But we started going to computer-assisted dispatch, and we started computer-assisted dispatch in Brooklyn, and they wanted us to teach people from the other boroughs who would come in and, I suppose, sit next to us or something. And I said, look, I have enough work to do without teaching somebody. Not that I don't like them, but hire a teacher, have somebody come in and do this, or have somebody come in on overtime and that's all they do. But basically, teaching is out of title work, and I was a unionized. It was a unionized operation, and I had passed my civil service test by then. So I filed a grievance, won the grievance, became the Brooklyn Borough representative for the union, participated in the decertification of the union out of the larger union that represented them. We became our own union. I became the first president of that union, maybe the second president, maybe there was one in there kind of halfway through the transition. And I was president of the union until I left in 1982. And it was kind of interesting because there were two different worlds. You know, one was the operations world, and the other was all the crap behind it. You know, the political stuff, the budget fights, the labor relations stuff. And I got to be very good at that sort of thing. And we had a pretty successful run there in terms of getting schedules changed, getting salaries improved, that sort of thing. However, in 1982, my second daughter came along. And by that time, I was a nurse, because part of my experience in the FDNY was one day the chief dispatcher came to me and said, hey, college boy, more or less. He said, you've already graduated from college, so I know you can do this. Would you like to be a nurse? I was married to a nurse, and I knew how much she was making, and it was more than me. So I said, what does it cost? What's the tuition? They said, no, this is all scholarship. And so I went to Bellevue Hospital School of Nursing and passed my boards, got my RN in 1979, and was doing both for a little while, for about 3 years. But when my second daughter came along, I said, well, it was the best job I ever resigned from, but it just wasn't economically tenable. And don't forget, living in New York City is, even then, wasn't a cheap proposition with two salaries. So, so I went to work as a nurse. I worked in med-surg for a while. I worked in respiratory. I worked in cardiac step-down. But I got floated to psych one day in a hospital, and I'm 6'7" and 289 pounds. And I think more than anything else, they thought that was the therapeutic presence that I brought to psych. And so, as it turned out, I was pretty good at psych, and I did about, how many years have it been? I did 40 some odd years as a psych nurse, and in different settings, mostly locked in patient psych units. I did a little work in correctional facilities with prisoners, jails and a prison. And it was all fine. But as I was putting along there with my Vietnam combat veterans, who were my patients, and post-traumatic stress disorder was a relatively new phenomenon, I started to realize that there was a relationship between what these gentlemen were telling me and what firefighters had gone through. And in 1980, I was fortunate enough to have an article published in Fire Engineering, one of the early articles on PTSD and firefighting. And it took me another 9 years to realize, wait a minute, it's not just the firefighters, it's also the dispatchers. And I started to focus more. Everybody gets the sort of sexy, not to diminish it, but it's very newsworthy when there's a critical incident, and everybody understands that this can be horrible. And sometimes the tapes are pretty bad, and there's, secondary PTSD or whatever you want to call it. There's lots of names for it, but it's real, and it wears people out. And there wasn't much support at all. Now I will say that's one of the big changes. is this emotional support, mental health support for folks in this business. But then, as I kind of wandered along a little bit and got a little bit more into research, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity. I got a fellowship to Brandeis. I got a doctorate in social policy and management, and I really got into research. I like research, and I'm starting to find out there are all these other things that are going on with dispatchers, all kinds of chronic stuff. So there's, I don't know what kind of shift you worked, Glenn, but I had the schedule from hell. All right, before you got to overtime, I did 2 8-4s, but one of them was a 12-hour day to make up for the however many hours we needed in a pay period. So 2 day tours followed immediately by 2 evening tours, followed immediately by 2 night tours. 8-4, 8-4, 4-12, 4-12, 12-8, 12-8, and you have 96 hours off, which sounds wonderful, except you're getting off at 8 in the morning after just having completed 6 shifts over 3 tours, 3 different platoons. And you use your first 8 to 10 hours sleeping. And then you wake up and it's not daytime. And you start to suffer from, at the very least, social isolation. And really the only people you kind of socialize with are in your own work group, at the very least. And, we were kind of aware that was bad, but there was a lot of, rah-rah and esprit de corps. And we worked with some terrific people, a lot of dedicated people. But I had no idea how bad it was. And I only did that for 5 years, because when I became president of the union, I got, there's a release time policy in New York City. And I was full-time, whatever time I wanted to work to do my job as a union president. And I was talking to a fellow who I was on the job with years ago. He's a couple of years older than I am. And he said, you and I are the only 2 guys left from the working group that we were in. And I said, well, what do you mean? Everybody, I went to nursing. He said, no, we're alive. Everybody else is dead. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? Well, that may or may not be true, but he was able to point out a lot of folks that we worked with who were deceased. And so I started getting into some of the chronic stresses. And the more I got into it, the more I found. And so circadian disruption is strongly associated with the development of type 2 diabetes, all right, and cardiac disease. And it all has to do with your cellular clock system. It's also got a secondary effect on your family. Then there's all these other things like anticipatory anxiety. All right. So we used to sit in front of a console that had, I don't know, maybe a dozen buttons on it. And so you press a button and it's, fire department, where's the fire? And somebody says, oh, there's a car fire on 4th Avenue and 34th Street. Yeah, we got that. Thank you very much. We're on the way. Fire department, 4th Avenue and 34th Street. Do you know about the car fire? Yes, absolutely. And while I'm sitting there, you want to be nice to people. But if you have a car fire and on the 4 corners of the car fire, there's 4 high rises, you could get 100 phone calls. And in the back of my mind and in everybody else's mind is, okay, car fire, car fire, car fire, car fire, car fire, cardiac, right? I got to get rid of all these people first with that piddly little car fire that we're sending somebody to, because if I don't get to the cardiac, the occupied building fire, the fire in a dynamite factory, the lady having a baby, whatever the hell is more important than a car fire that somebody's going to, if I don't get to it soon, it's just worse. And so, the whole thing is speed and accuracy, and those usually have an inverse relationship, but you had to do both. And so there's this whole thing called anticipatory anxiety. And I didn't realize it at the time. This kind of, I always tell people the forest and trees experience. I had to go to work. You go into work, you put your head down, and you do what you got to do. You're either on the radio, on the voice alarm, or answering phones, or maybe paperwork. But that's the fiasco. And you are civilians, and you are telling uniformed people where to go, including chiefs. And that rubs some people the wrong way. And it's all subject to lousy pay, terrible schedule, terrible dietary habits that are associated with night work. I have a whole list. I have about a dozen well-documented chronic stressors for 911 dispatchers, which are only starting to be recognized as perhaps more significant on an individual level as far as their health goes. So I'm beating that drum pretty regularly. So I started writing novels because my youngest daughter, once COVID hit, thought it would be a good way to keep me off the street. Then she gave me, for a Christmas gift, she gave me a gift to Masterclass, which were these online classes. I took as many writing courses as I could take. I had already written 3 or 4 dozen magazine articles. I had already written a doctoral dissertation, but I hadn't written fiction. I had maybe 1 or 2 stories here or there. And so I took every course I could get my hands on, took some of them more than once, and just started writing. And what I found was I could put my head in the 1970s in Brooklyn and kind of let the story go. A lot of times the characters surprise me. They're my characters, for God's sake. And I've created them, and I'll have them in a dialogue, and they start to talk to one another, and I'm like the stenographer. I'm just keeping track of things. So I have a general idea when I start. I usually start with an outline on an Excel spreadsheet. And I like that because I can move things around, because that always happens. So I started my last book with about 6 chapters outlined. And I think I had 40 chapters by the end, because stuff just kept happening in the story, and it had to have its own space. I know that sounds kind of weird, and it surprises me every time it happens, but it does happen. And then I also, in addition to the novel, started writing short stories. And these are kind of the fun things, because writing about the 911 system, I necessarily have to be a bearer of bad news. I have my upcoming book on the 911 system, sometime in 2027, is called the 911 System Teetering on the Edge. And it's a little scary because it takes stuff from all these different places and kind of pulls it together and says, hey, you have to do something different. The way that this is happening now is being held together by spit and Scotch tape, and the number of vacancies in the public safety answering points is kind of stunning. Some of them have 25% vacancies. The time to answer, the time in queue, the time to pick up getting longer. A fire will double in size as long as there's oxygen and fuel available for it. If you don't get to a cardiac very quickly, the street outcomes are typically not that good. If you don't get police to the scene of the crime, you may not get good witness descriptions, or you may not be able to interfere with a crime in progress. So having empty seats in a PSAP is concerning. What do they do to fill empty seats? Hey, you know what, Glenn? You don't look that tired. I know you were thinking about going home at midnight, but have I got a surprise for you? Wouldn't you like to work some overtime? And here's the thing. From the individual dispatcher's point of view, overtime appeals to your sense of duty and being needed, and you want to serve the public. Most of these folks have a positive attitude towards the delivery of service. And the other thing is, with this crap salary I have to begin with, time and a half's not a bad idea. And so you'll work 16 hours, you'll get off in the morning, having to come back at 4 o'clock that same morning, at 4 p.m. that same day. So you'll have 16 on, 8 off, and you come back for God knows what, at least 8. And after 16 on, how good are you at driving home? And so a lot of the guys, particularly if they lived out on Long Island, which can be a real schlep, an hour and a half out, an hour and a half back, how long sleep am I going to get? I'm just going to sleep in the basement. And so they don't get home at all. Some people, their mother or their in-laws or something live nearby, relatively nearby, relative to where they live. They go there. They didn't get home. They didn't see their wife. They didn't see their kids. And I say wife because at that time it was like 99% men doing that job. So that's a problem. People don't stay in the job terribly long. The average career span of a 911 dispatcher in the country is 5 to 7 years. And so you have this cycle of, if I'm the director and I'm getting heat from the mayor, that people aren't. I've been in, I don't know how many 911 centers. I taught 911 dispatchers in 24 states and in Canada. And so you got a mayor or a county supervisor or somebody saying, get these people to answer the phone sooner. And the director is saying, well, I need more people. And they said, well, go out and get somebody. And who do you
If
get?
it were only that simple. If it were only that simple.
Yeah, exactly. And who do you get? You say, hey, I have this great salary for you. I just did a comparison study of the 100 largest, by population, the 100 largest cities in the United States. The median salary in the city and the median salary for the 911 dispatchers. 100 biggest cities. Lots of revenue, lots of money, biggest cities. 79 of those 100 cities pay the 911 dispatcher less than the median salary for all the jobs in the city in the same city that that person is protecting.
Makes no sense.
Here's another problem. It's called the local safety bias. Hang with me for this one. I used to go around the country and I'd stop in some place, I don't know, Cincinnati, or I'm trying to get a mid-sized city in my head. I went to a lot of small places like Sullivan, Indiana, Angola, Indiana. But I'd go to some place, I turn on the television because I want to see what's on the local news. And whatever was on, whatever calamity they sent their news people out to, there'd be some horrified neighbor standing there, and the guy would come up with a microphone and say, well, what do you think about this shit? and people would say, stuff like this never happens here.
Yep.
It doesn't happen. This is a quiet neighborhood. And they're talking to a guy whose only reason for being there is because stuff like that happened there, right? So there's this local safety bias. Well, what's that got to do with the price of beans? People pay a ton more for their entertainment and sports streaming programs than they do for their 911 fees. The average 911 fee in the country is $3 a month. $3 a month. And they'll pay, depending on what tier they are in HBO or whatever, pick your poison, they'll pay 3 to 5 times more for that. And the general reasoning, although they don't stop think about it, excuse me, the general reasoning is, I know I'm going to get the baseball game unless it's rained out. I know I'm going to get the movie. I know I'm going to get the pit. I know I'm going to get whatever the hell I want to get. And I'm not going to need that 911 stuff because that stuff doesn't happen here. And that's exactly what's going on. They don't believe they're going to need it as much as they believe they're definitely going to get this other stuff. And so part of 911's mission has to include public education.
Yep.
And part of the public education has to be, we need more money. And it's going to be a hard sell in some states because in some states, what was supposed to be dedicated 911 fees have been diverted to other purposes.
Yeah.
General fund is what they call it. Yep, at least here in the South. Yeah, I want to you brought us a couple things out right there. One of them was I didn't realize I had it, but the isolation.
Right.
We're only good with people we know. I mean, not what I mean in the business. I never realized. I never even thought about that. We would work 7 on, 2 off, 8 on, 4 off, 9 off, 7 off,
and suddenly it's Christmas.
And then, well, that's if you didn't get mandoed or they cancel or something. But yeah. And then another thing you just keyed me in on, hadn't thought about this. Even I went from listening to I was a primarily medical dispatcher. I went from listening to the calls. And I'm like, I got to get out there. I got to do something. So I jumped in as an EMT, and well, that wasn't good enough. So I went to paramedic school, and I was like, now I can save the world. Yeah, wrong. But one thing I noticed, and I didn't think about it this way, we would have car wrecks, shootings, fires. Media was just all crickets. And I'm like, I go home and I'm like, yeah, did you hear where it was like 4 people shot downtown? And they're like, no, there wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, really? It was coming down from the mayor's office because Knoxville is the gateway to the Smokies. You don't want to be a bad city and push all that somewhere else. And I never realized what you're talking. They were selling the safety by pushing down the accuracy of, we'll call it fake news. So I never thought about it that way.
It's a lie that people tell themselves so they can get out of bed in the morning too. True. I mean, no matter what they saw on television last night, that was over there. It's not here. So yeah, that's all part of the one of my characters in all 5 novels is a guy by the name of Hackstein, and his wife is a nurse. And in one scene, she says, you think you know what the world is about? You only know what the fire department is about. And it kind of strikes him, and he has an opportunity to go out into the world shortly thereafter. He goes down to South Carolina for a funeral of a mother of a coworker, and he finds out it's pretty crappy everywhere. And so, for a lot of people, and it may be institutionally, it's a good thing for the fire department that's where their world is. And until they get out, maybe that's the best way to do it. Yeah. But other people aren't suited for that. Yeah. And they tend to take themselves out. Or I was in a group that when we were working nights, it kind of slowed down around 3 a.m. And if we had the opportunity to study on a weeknight, there was a guy in law school. There was a guy who wanted to be a meteorologist. There were 2 or 3 nursing students. I mean, everybody had an aspiration to get the hell out of there and make more money. One guy even went to the state corrections department. And so we said, you're going to be locked up all day. It's better. It's better than this. And so, God bless the people who are doing it, but it's going to get more difficult. And one of the reasons it's going to get more difficult, besides this whole tradition-bound thing of who gets promoted and why do they learn what they learned, is demographics. The population replacement rate is 2.1, and right now we're at 1.6. So there's going to be a tighter labor market. Everybody's going to be competing for the folks that you think would be age appropriate for a 911 dispatcher job, and you don't have the money to compete against these people right now, well, you damn well better get the money if you want to fill the seats. And by the way, the rest of us are getting older, and we use EMS a lot.
Yes.
Right? So there's going to be a huge increase in service demand and not much of a service supply.
No.
And
They're turning to AI.
Say again?
They're turning to AI. A lot of them are now.
Well, AI is a tool, but it's not the answer. I'll tell you a story. We went from supposedly to reduce wear and tear on firefighters and fire engines. We went to something called emergency response boxes, ERS boxes, where somebody doesn't pull the handle, they lift up this thing, they press a button, press a blue button to talk to the cops, press a red button to talk to the fire department. And so we'd be talking to people, the little location would pop up, and we'd like talking to them on the phone, except they were on the street. And so this box comes up. The guy is very busy, the dispatcher. He says, "What do you got, fire department?" He says, "Oh, there's a fire in the church down." And okay, we're sending them out. And of course, somebody's writing the ticket out. And it's a church fire. So what are they putting? Holy smokes, right? And that goes into the system. And the same box comes up again. And the guy presses the button. He says, "We're on our way." And he goes to his next fire button. And the same box comes up again, and he says, "Hey, pal, I told you, we're on our way." And he gets right off before the guy can speak. The fourth time it comes up, he says, listen, are you blind? Are you deaf? Look down the street. You see the fire engines?" And you can hear the guy say, "What? Oh, yeah, look at the fire engines." That's not why I called you. And so the dispatcher says, what are you talking about? He says, "Well, there's a guy here leaning up against a box. He's been stabbed." And he said, "We're the fire department. What are you calling us for?" He says, "Well, we call you. You come. We call the cops. Maybe they come, maybe they don't." He had 2 incidents at the same bloody box. How AI does geofencing is of some concern to me. Geofencing is they sort of draw in their automatic robot brains where they're going to consider things coming in as duplicates for this same incident. And unless they get something different, they're going to keep throwing it into the pot. The issue for me is, what do they do with a separate incident at the same place, or additional information on the same incident, like, "Oh, that car fire, there's a guy trapped in that car now. A minute and a half later, there's a guy trapped in a car." So I'm not going to send one engine. I'm going to send an engine, a truck, a rescue, an ambulance. Oh, my God. Completely different response. And so I'm not convinced until I see it that people are fluent in that. And I've had that experience myself, pulling a box and nobody's coming, and I had to jump up into a rig and say, we were able to send a message that nobody else would hear except the dispatcher, and say, "Look, this is me. I'm sitting out here. I'm pulling this box." They said, "Oh, we thought it was for the pier fire." I said, "Well, it's not. The thing that blew off the pier landed on the house, and the house is on fire 4 blocks away, but it's on fire." So that's one of my concerns with AI. I think it's a great tool, but I think it has to have human monitoring and very, very closely, like any other tool. When we were going to computer-assisted dispatching, I had people in my union, members of my union, saying, the computer is going to do my job. I'm going to be out of work. Well, we used to work with 6 or 8 guys on a shift, and the computer-assisted dispatching required more than that, because somebody had to be doing contemporaneous inputting. They didn't have mobile data terminals on the unit. The unit would give you something verbally, and somebody would have to put it in while the other guy was still talking to the unit. So there's always, when you have these transitions to new technology, there's always some fear of the unknown. But in this business, you just can't apply technology without some on-the-ground experience to inform it. While I was in the FDNY, They had a big consulting firm come in. I won't name the name. And they looked at maps and street boxes and everything in Manhattan, and they decided, oh, you got the wrong companies going to these things. And what they did was they just went by, travel distance to the location. What they didn't figure in was north-south in Manhattan is a lot faster than east-west. Crosstown traffic is like 4 miles an hour. And so if you're going to send somebody from across town to this box, guy north or south of that box is going to get there sooner. And that's the difference between responding on paper and responding in the street grid that is Manhattan. So AI needs to be developed more. I think it's great for non-emergency calls. The determination that no emergency exists can be tricky. We had a terrible supermarket fire down on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. And the first call was, don't send everybody in. Can you not use the sirens because, it's a quiet neighborhood and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, sure. And everybody goes, lights, sirens, yeah. And
that encourages us in the field.
Exactly. But when we talked to the guy for a little bit longer, he said, well, we've been smelling smoke for a couple of hours. And we just thought, well, we were smelling smoke for a couple of hours. It was burning through the wood timbers of this old building, which collapsed with a firefighter underneath a freezer in the frozen fruit section. And he was killed because they want to bother anybody. And I mean, it's smelling it for a while, but we don't really see anything. So if AI gets somebody saying, well, it's not really much, are they going to be savvy enough to say, oh, sure, I believe you, and send, a whole bunch of people? Or are they going to do what might be the bias in their programming, which is to earn the money that the city thinks that's going to be earned from this system? And that can get ironed out over time, but it's going to take a little while. And operating against that is your most seasoned dispatchers are leaving within 5 to 7 years.
Correct.
And so who's going to teach the machine? Who's going to monitor the machine? It's a problem. It's a problem. And so it's just one problem, but you can't say AI is going to fix it because that's not going to happen. And consolidation is another solution that people bring up. And in some places it works, but there's a limit. There's a geographic limit to consolidation. And I know that there's companies out there that can transfer the 911 calls from, I don't know, Nebraska to Ohio if Nebraska is busier for some reason, right? Nebraska gets wicked ice storms and all kinds of stuff and derechos. And so maybe Ohio's having a slow day. Let's send the calls to Ohio. They'll have a map in front of them. They can see it's not the same. It's not the same as being familiar with your response area. It's just not.
Agreed.
And so it can plug the hole for a little while, but it's not the same quality. And so, how all of these solutions come to money. They all come to money, and the money necessarily includes community education and making sure there's oversight of the funds. And that's very different from what's been happening. So we'll be asking dispatchers and their leaders to do something that's significantly different from what's been happening, which is why it is so much easier to write about the 1970s, because I know what happened. I have no idea what's going to happen going forward. And I am sort of minimally optimistic because there's a can-do attitude in the history of these places. But there's also a 25% vacancy rate. So some people couldn't do. Doesn't make them bad people by any stretch of the imagination. I left. I left. I love the job. I love the people in the job. I had to feed my family. I left. I
You know,
probably would have made a good trainer, but
I went back to the fire station, and I didn't think I'd been gone that long. And I hear the bell rings, and then I hear this voice come over. Engine, ladder, rescue, box, 2433. Engine 424, 409, 407. Like, what the hell is that? They're like, oh, yeah, that's the computer.
And, you tend to get very reliant on that, and that's another problem. There's the only way that you can build redundant skills. Well, there's two ways. You can run a parallel operation manually, but you have to pay another set of people to do that at the same time, right? Or you can say, as we did for a while they were upgrading programs, when it was a young baby computer system, you can say, well, on Wednesdays, we're going manual, so the IT guys can upgrade the system.
Yep.
And you know what? People didn't really want to work on Wednesday after a while. They were very afraid of the computer system, but when they saw how much easier it made their job, it's like, oh my God, we got to go back to moving chips around and writing with wax pencils. And who wants to do that, when I can sit in front of a computer? So the problem there is what happens when the system goes down. Because if you don't have the manual skills, you're going to be standing there like a deer in the headlights. You're not going to know what the hell to do. I mean, you can answer phones and you can send people up, but then what happens? You start to lose control of the system.
I hated the cards. We had a day designated at, from 2 to 4 or whatever it is, on day shift, and then from midnight until 2, or every shift, they'd have a mandatory one. And then they had random ones where they just come over and flip the switch and you go, CAD's down, you're on cards. We're like, wait, what? No. I hated the cards. I came in with CAD. So.
It's a very different kettle of fish, but there are things to be done, and the question of whether or not there's the political will and the necessary leadership, we will find out fairly soon. I'm not young, and I want somebody to answer that damn phone if I need to call 911. I mean, I'm in this for selfishness, purely selfish reasons.
Also, when do you know when the system's going to hallucinate on a situation and misunderstand what the actual situation is and not fully get the grasp of it? And then AI also, it doesn't always listen to listen. It listens to respond. So it'll actually even talk over you whenever you're trying to get more information. It'll make stuff up as it goes instead of actively listening. It just listens to respond.
Yeah, that's scary.
I heard police chief here in Atlanta, they're going to AI 911 supplemental. And a reporter asked him, so, well, if it comes in, it's a really bad call. He goes, well, the computer knows to listen for screaming and elevated voice and all this. And I'm going, no, it doesn't. Everybody's screaming. Have you ever answered a damn 911 call? Everybody is screaming.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but when it's pitched as the be-all and end-all, which I understand marketing people have to do because there's competition in the field, when it's pitched as the be-all and end-all, it kind of runs counter to the idea of redundancy, and so redundancy saves lives. That's. You need to have a plan B and a plan C, and you need to have significant imagination.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to, and how many, I'll say police departments, because that's where most 911 systems live, but I'm starting to think they should live in their own department.
They should.
But in how many police departments do you see the Office of 911 Planner? you've got to have this sort of thing because things are changing. They're changing rapidly. And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Who are you going to send to school? What are you going to teach them? We when I first got in the job, we were taught how to change fuses in the fuse room where all the telegraph wires came into the building from all over Brooklyn, from, I don't know, 4,000 boxes or whatever was out there. And that was considered, well, there's your training, who are you gonna train and what are you gonna train them to do? And are you going to have a parallel bilingual group for whatever is the second most prominent language in your district? And one more sort of elemental question has to do with dispatcher economics. And of course, it's supply and demand. But when there's only one supplier of a service, that the supplier is said to be inelastic. So if I have two supermarkets in town and this one charges more for orange juice, I'm going to go to the other one. If you have a fire, you only have one place you can call. And so it's an inelastic service supply. It's an always available service supply, and it's a service supply where time is truly of the essence. So, as your staffing philosophy, do you do minimum staffing? Where the whole thing can go to hell if somebody catches the measles, or do you do optimum staffing?
Yep. And
a great line I saw from a lady who posts on LinkedIn fairly often. Her name is Halcyon, that's her first name. She was quoting somebody else, and I can't remember the name of the lady who was quoting. But anyway, the line is, we don't train dispatchers to be busy. We train them to be ready. Well, if you're going to train them to be ready, then you have to staff for them to be ready. And you have to staff for them to be. Who is it? Who's the guy who does Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Airlines? Branson. Branson has a quote, and he says, you train people to be able to leave, and you treat them so that they don't want to. And I think that's a great leadership mantra to have on your wall or something, because you want to be optimally staffed. You're the only game in town. It's safer for the responders on the street. If you don't get the right information because you're hurried, or you're the only person working at the moment because you're in a 2-seat PSAP and the other guy's in the bathroom. If you don't ask, gee, all those people that are laying down on the bank and there's a guy standing there with a gun, is anybody else in the bank standing there?
Yeah.
Right? Because that would tell me there's more than one person robbing the bank. And I know of instances, sadly, where police officers have made the mistake of thinking, well, I got this guy, and no, his friend has you. Right? Yeah. So thinking in multiples, and not pulling up to a building that's completely on fire and people are silhouetted in all the windows. Not pulling up to somebody who's been bleeding for 8 minutes and you don't have much longer to save whatever he's got left in him. That calls for optimal staffing. And I foresee that this kind of distinction is where the public education piece is going to run into trouble, because you have to tell them the truth if you want them to support the service. And I think politically, a lot of folks don't want the truth to be out there.
I have to agree with that. It scares people when they find out the truth and they don't know how to handle it. So then it gets overlooked and denied like it's not actually even going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you stop and think about it, we teach our kids to even if they're in the crosswalk, to look both ways before they cross the street, right? So we teach them to anticipate that bad things might happen. And so what do? You kind of mitigate your loss potential there by looking both ways and getting your ass to the other side of the street in a hurry. So, we teach people that. I say to people, do you have smoke detectors in your house? Oh, yeah. Oh, so you expect your house to catch fire? Well, no, I don't expect my house to catch fire. Well, it's the same thing. No, it's not. But yes, it is. It's the same thing. It's on a different scale. And, that's going to be kind of wrenching for a lot of folks. But at the end of the day, you're telling them you're making them safer. And I don't know how much they really believe that yet.
No.
But at some point, somebody's going to say, gee, remember when a fire was only in one building?
Well, the fire department there for the longest time put themselves out of a job with all that fire safety and codes, and it lulled the public in. And, no, I get it. It lulled the public in, and they were like, "See, that's only down there in Jonesville. That's not up here in Smithville," And they did. They lulled themselves, and then of course, then they paid the price because they started having staffing cuts. So they took over EMS, which they absolutely hate. So, it's a true story. It's a true story. I know.
But if you were going to have 911 run by the people who get the most runs, it'd be EMS.
Absolutely.
That by a factor of many. There's a lot more EMS runs than there are either police or fire runs.
Look at Grady EMS in downtown Atlanta. Their communication system is freaking amazing. So now when we worked for a guy from up north, up from your part of the country, Barry Fury, and he said we're going to have everybody all in the same room, and that was the way I thought it was until I moved to Atlanta. So, but I will give Grady props. They are not only one of the, I'd say maybe the oldest ambulance service in the country, but they are jam up. I mean, they could dispatch buses if a bus system called and said, "Hey, can you handle buses? We're taking a break." They'd be, "Yeah, we got it." I mean, they really are that good. So
what do they pay people?
Now Grady is a little bit better because they're hospital based. So,
yeah,
and they're private. So
of the I don't know whether it was 15 or so people that paid above the median salary. If you rule out one town in Texas where the regular median salary was really low, so that dispatches could be higher, but it was still garbage. But most of the people who were above the median were in California. I don't know what that means. I don't know if California was more enlightened when it came to this. They certainly have had enough catastrophes to be aware that it's not a theoretical possibility. But I don't think people should have to go through catastrophes,
No.
Teach them to look both ways before they cross the street. And what does that mean in your house? Oh, well, I live in a brick building. That's not going to burn. So, I mean, no,
Yeah.
This is what you get. I mean, I had that the other day here. I live in a steel and concrete building, but the rest of it is highly flammable. And it's one of the more recent residential occupancies, so it's sprinkled, which is helpful.
Yeah,
but doesn't guarantee a damn thing. It gives you better odds, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. So,
you'll get out wet.
So, I pitched the books as kind of fun, and people who are interested in the history of the FDNY, they like Brooklyn history, they like dispatching in general, or whatever, or they like the 70s. They can get a lot of that there. And there's a bar scene in every book because, after our second 8 to 4, when we didn't have to be until 4 o'clock the next day, we'd stop. And after our second 4 to 12, when we didn't have to be until midnight the next day, we'd stop.
Yep.
I recently saw a survey, and I won't go into detail. I won't give you any identifying characteristics as to the origin of the survey, but one of the questions they asked was, well, how do you deal with stress? I take a walk. I have a pet. I talk to my friend. I go to my religious person. I go to mental health. Not one choice said, "Do you drink? Do you do drugs? You know, do you do prescription drugs?" Because, of course, that's not as bad as doing drugs. I
They
mean,
don't want to know.
but we didn't know what we were doing. This was like part of the ethos of the job. You go, "Hey, are you going to so and so?" "Oh yeah, yeah." Because let's face it, when you get a call in the firehouse, you go out, the sirens get you going, the call gets you going, but you get off the rig and you grab something physical, whether it's a rolled up length of hose or you grab your crash box, or you're doing something physical. You're discharging a lot of the adrenaline that comes with the call. I get a guy that's dying in his bed because of the smoke, and we hope that the ladder company gets there before he checks out. And then the phone goes blank, and I have no idea what the hell happened, but there's more buttons blinking at me.
Yep.
And I can't go out and run around the building 6 times, come back in and answer it. I got to answer it now. So you have this buildup of adrenaline. And where's a good place to kind of offset that? Well, alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. It's not a bad thing except now after you get out of the bar, you have to drive home.
Yeah. We had a gym, so that was kind of good. That was one of the few that had a gym, but Barry took care of us. So, and I was going to ask about your 70s. Did you ever meet Dennis Smith?
I've met Dennis Smith at official functions, but not to spend any significant time with. I did. My first article was published in Firehouse Magazine. So I had some back and forth by letters, not email. And when I got to fire engineering, the editor was Tom Brennan, who was a guy I knew from the firehouse.
His book, Firehouse. No, not Report from Intercompany 82. That was later. Firehouse. It was the bigger one. It was all pictures.
Oh yeah.
It was told his tale of. Yeah, he's the reason I became
He opened the door for a lot of people to write. And I, before I started getting into writing about 1970s fire dispatchers, because that sounds like, duller than dishwater, I said, well, what's the market like? And the market was like tremendous. And how many people are doing this? And I think I have the only series, and there's like 2 other guys who have written pretty good books.
Yeah.
But only recently. EMS has some nice memoirs out there. Fire department has a bunch. Law enforcement has tons, and a good number of cops who've gone into television and movies and novels, and But there are a ton of stories to tell, or else I wouldn't be telling it. So I was at the dentist the other day. I insulted him. I shouldn't do that because he's going in my mouth with sharp things. But he said, geez, I see you got another book coming out. Where do you get your ideas? And I said, well, you do one thing. You do dentistry. You've devoted your life to dentistry. And he goes, I said, well, you do it well. You do it well, but that's all you do. And in the fire department, you do a lot of things. In the police department, you do a lot of things. In EMS, you do all kinds of crap. And I got a lot of stories. And I said, to tell you the truth, I have a list at home, and I have 47 ideas in that list right now. And I don't know if I'm going to write 47 more stories, but I've got 47 concepts that I can work into 2 or 3 stories if I have to, And I don't think most dispatchers realize how much of an opportunity being exposed to all this stuff gives them to make impressions on people another way, to tell other stories. And I had to say in the intro to my first book, this is fiction. You're not going to recognize your friends. You think you're going to recognize your friends. I'm not writing about any people, right? I do mention one live dispatcher, Warren Fuchs. He has tremendous cover picture on Brooklyn Favors, the latest novel, and people keep asking me, is that an AI illustration? No, the guy was at the fire, knows how to take pictures. But the whole idea of this is fiction, and what I'm writing about is comes from where you're sitting around at 3 a.m. and you start to knock ideas around like, gee, what would happen if? You know, it would be so easy to run an arson ring from here. And that idea is in my first book because it would be very easy. Nobody wants to talk about that, but oh my goodness, particularly at night when you had very little supervision.
Wayne Miller wrote a whole series about his time with the Boston Fire up at the with the ATF. So yeah. In fact, he's going to the big time. Frank, tell everybody where they can find you and find your stuff. I love your book. I have learned a lot from this. Sorry, Barry, if you're watching. Next one I want is I want to get a novel from you. So next time we get you on, I want a novel from you so we can talk about the gritty 70s more. So, but where can everybody find you?
I'm going to read this to you because I don't. It's Amazon.com/author/FXHOLT.
Okay.
Amazon.com/author/FXHOLT. FX Holt is me. And it's got all my books there, including my 1996 textbook, Emergency Communications Management, which if you get a hold of now, you'll think it's quaint. There's been some changes in 30 years.
I've got all my original textbooks for all my classes back there on the shelf. So yeah. Frank, I'm gonna have you back for one of them because I want to talk some 70s fire and get smoky and dirty. So we'll have you back on to talk about that.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I'll shoot you an email when this is done, and anybody listening, I'll put your link in the show notes afterwards. So we're live in Australia, so hopefully you'll get some new fans from Australia. So
excellent.
So we look forward to it, Frank. I'm glad that you took time out of your evening to come on with us.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it, and I'd tried to get a lot out in an hour, but I'd like to have more back and forth because I haven't really tapped your brain very much.
Oh, you would have been intimidated because this is Allison's first night. So I'll let her talk next time more. So
okay then.
All right, Frank. Have a great night. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Take care of yourselves, both of you.
You as well. Have a good night.
Good night now.
Night.
I love hearing these stories. I really do. And he is definitely right. We didn't even scrape on PTSD and the signs and symptoms and all the things. Any of the longtime listeners know that, I'm on the bandwagon with that. Big time supporter of mental health. Allison, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. So,
well, thank you for letting me. It's definitely a new experience I was not expecting to have this week.
Well, guess what? We're going to be working on this and getting in some more. So, plus there's a project maybe down the road where we might work together, doing something else. Who knows? So we'll talk about that too later on. So, everybody, I want to remind you, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Thin Line Rock Station, www.thethinlinerockstation.com. You can find me playing records. All my info is in the show notes. If you want to send me a message or send a request, let me know. I'll be glad to have it. I'm not sure about next week's show yet, so to be determined. If you follow the Monday through Friday 2 to 4 show, Brenda has had to take a bit of a break. She's doing okay, so she's fine. And I haven't replaced her if she's watching. But I mean, maybe you're kind of cute, so I might keep you instead of Brenda.
Goodness. No, there's no such thing as replacing Brenda. She's awesome.
You know how hard it is to find. Well, never mind. At any rate,
I can't watch this anymore.
we will be back But Brenda and I should be back on Monday. I'm not sure what we're doing next week's show. I've been asked to guest on some other shows, so I might do that in place. I don't know. Just keep checking on Facebook and the Sportcat groups, and we'll keep you updated on all that. And Allison, I'm glad you did come on. Seriously, it wasn't as bad as you thought. So
I definitely got to see a lot from a different perspective in two very different realms. So that was awesome. Thank you.
And I got to give you kudos. Your first question with Trisha was spot on there. I was like, damn, why didn't I think of that? So did your homework. Damn it. I have to work harder if I keep you around. Everybody have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you, everybody in Australia. We will catch you soon.
And the ones are screaming in the brain. Welcome to the void, breaking the barrier. Welcome to the Sportcat Show. Reality's the carrier. Shift the frequency faster than the light. Sportcat Show, haunting the night. Glitch in the dimension, blurring all the lines. Spectral heavy breathing, ghostly circuit signs. Hyperspeed haunting, neon colored ghost. Welcome to the glitch, we're the ultimate host.